What up, everybody? It's your boy Lavell Vegas, Terrance Gawith, Heather Jones, and this is Food and Laughter. Today we got food from Baked After Dark. They gave us a cinnamon roll, they gave us some cookies, everything against my diabetes. So I don't know how much I'm gonna really eat it because I didn't bring no insulin, but it's okay. But to the left of me, we got a special guest today. I'm gonna mess up her last name, I already know. She's part of Your Mom's Comedy. She's been doing comedy for at least 20 plus years. Give it up for Kendra Karbowski.
Yay! You did it right. It's just a car, a bow, and a ski, but with a K.
I thought I was gonna mess it up. I thought I was gonna
You know, I
mess it up.
really
I was wondering
thought
how he was going to mess it up. It's like sound it out and you get there.
I really thought, you know, with my next husband, I was going to have an easier name. I didn't have to spell, you know. So and
Shout out to Chuck, man.
What?
Shout out to Chuck.
Shout out to the Chuckster. Yeah. He's my 2.0, my upgrade. Yeah, because I had to spell. I mean, I was a Franklin, so I was Kendra Franklin. And you think, you know, people know how to spell Franklin. They don't. They don't. And then I was a Purdue, but there was no U's. So it was per person, moisture on grass. And now Karbowski. So when I started comedy, I just went by Kendra K. Have I ever told you guys this story? Anyway, it's a fun story. So one time there was a typo, and I got introduced as, welcome to the stage, Kendrak. Kendrak. They put the K on the K. And I'm like, I'm a magician, a vampire, maybe. I sparkle. So.
That's what's up. So what made you get started in comedy? What year you started comedy? When you start?
I actually went on stage for actual stand-up around 2000.
Okay.
It was a little bit earlier than that, but I was going to be a star from, I guess, the time I was 4. I just didn't want to show anybody.
Oh, okay.
I put on private shows in our living room.
I'm glad you clarified that, because you just said private shows. If you didn't
This is before the internet there, Lavell. It's way before
you said private shows. I didn't hear living room.
With a 4-year-old, that's just wrong.
Okay, I'm sorry, my bad.
Well, I started doing voices with Rudolph and then Sesame Street and all that kind of stuff, and that was kind of my thing. And also dancing. I loved to dance. My parents could not get me off the furniture, especially if Tina Turner came on. I was going to be one of her backup dancers. And my mother said, stop shredding your dresses. You're not going to be one of her dancers. I'm like, why? I can dance. And she's like, there are things we'll have to talk about, but no, you can't be a dancer.
What made you want to get with Your Mom's Comedy? I know we talked to Patty about it.
Well, yeah, we got to correct some things, but let's go back to the stand-up thing.
Okay.
Why did I get into stand-up?
Yeah. Let's get that answer.
I moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I had nothing better to do, and I did that for husband 2.0. He got a job up there, and we were dating. So I was like, we're not going to get married. And 2 months later, he's like, marry me. So apparently Sioux Falls didn't have a lot of good-looking women. So I went up there, and I got to chatting with a neighbor, and I was making her laugh, and she says, my friend is opening up a Funny Bone, and you should go down there and audition. I'm like, I've never done stand-up. I've done stage stuff, but I'd never done that. So I went and I auditioned. They thought I was really funny. They said, when we decide to do a house MC, we'll definitely put you in the running. And I said, well, I just want to learn this business. So they made me a bouncer. I was a door gal. I did the door, and then I was a bouncer. And so, I wasn't really intimidating, you don't think, until I give you the mom eye. You! Out of here!
Did you ever have to bounce anybody? Did you ever have to, get it?
I did have to talk to a table or two. Knock it off, you guys. And once I had a calm down J medicine hat, so.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Jade medicine hat.
He was performing. He was a little wild. He was a little.
Oh yeah.
And I had to drive around comedians like Craig Evans.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Not Craig Evans. Yes.
Craig Peters.
Craig Peters.
Craig Peters.
Yes. We spent 2 hours in a car as I drove him up to some gig. I don't know. We got to chatting about that, and so it was a lot of fun. And then I started entering their contests. And I did Last Comic Standing. I did win that for Sioux Falls. So, there weren't a lot of comics, so it wasn't that hard. But no, it was the first time I really felt like I had a room,
Yeah.
you know, because prior to that, I'd do the open mics, and I had to deal with my friends and people from my husband's work that if they came to my open mics, they'd get a brownie point. And if you got 10 brownie points, then I would make you a pan of brownies.
Yeah.
But I found out that they were very polite people because they were clapping for everyone. I'm like, excuse me, no,
The brownie
you clap
deal is
for
off.
me,
Yeah, right.
okay? They're like, oh, nice. I'm like, stop it.
So it sounds to me like you've kind of, and I don't mean to sound this disrespectfully, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you kind of backed into comedy. Would that be an accurate description?
Well, in a way. I
Okay.
mean, you know, I worked very hard. I studied. I worked with Judy Carter. She had her books. I got to be on stage with Judy. I trained with her. And then I used my time at the Funny Bone when I worked there to interview every single comic that came through. Now, mind you, it's Sioux Falls. So if you're headlining at the Sioux Falls Comedy Club, you're either on your way up or your way down. And the ones on the way down don't want to talk. But like Rocky Laporte is just the funniest guy. He's a hoot. Etta May, BT. I'm trying to remember all the good. Well, of course, you know, Craig Peters. And so just learned, and I'd ask him, if I could ask him one question, it was, you know, would you do this all over again? Is it worth it? Because a lot of them were single because they were divorced, because it's a hard life.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and especially with the women and stuff. And Tammy Pescatelli and I had just a hoot one time in the bathroom, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so that's what I did. And I was older, but you know, so was Phyllis Diller and Roseanne.
Yeah, so it sounds like though that you started with like dancing and the living room stuff as like a young girl, and that's where it really started. But
Yeah.
it seems like comedy was just, it's mentioned.
Well, I did drama for 3 years in high school.
Okay.
And a lot of funny people, like Pat Hazel, who was just recently in town. He sold out the Benson Theater, I think, a couple of times. But he actually was a writer for Seinfeld. He had his own TV series, all sorts of stuff. He and I were in the same drama class.
Nice.
And Rob Baker and Mike Dowd. There was a lot of Craig Anton, who was on Mad TV. He was in my drama class. I was just shy. I know, you can't believe that, but I was like, I would do the drama parts, but when it came to the comedy in front of them, I was a little
I was the same way. Yeah,
You were quiet
I
and
was
shy
a
too?
theater major in college. I did it in high school and college, and comedy was the hardest thing to do. It wasn't until I was almost 30 that I did it, and you know what I mean. Like you could do, I could do Electra, but I can't do, shtick.
So did you do it just to get away from the kids, or what?
No, you know, I think similar thing. It was, I'd always wanted to do it, didn't know how to get into it. There was like a mom contest, and I was like, well, it's going to be the most sympathetic audience. Let's give it a go. So yeah, it was like just before my 30th birthday, I did my first thing at the Funny Bone here.
Yeah?
So yeah, I think.
You were one of the first comedians I saw at the Omaha Funny Bone when I moved back to town.
Aw.
So
Aw.
I was like, I could
Your
beat
first,
her.
your
No.
face is the first. You bitch.
Thank you very much.
I love you, Kendra.
Yeah, let's get out here and wrestle. Come on, let's go, let's go.
Did Jay Medicine ever have you punch him in the chest before a show?
He did not. I tried to not get that close because he was pretty excitable when he had a show. So
I was one of his openers a lot
really,
yeah.
at the Funny Bone?
Yeah,
I mean here in Omaha.
Yep. And
yeah, it was just up at the Sioux Falls that I knew.
he would right before a show he would get jazzed and go punch me as hard as you can in the chest, and people would just jack. And I'm like, you're gonna have a flipping heart attack. Like somebody's
Yeah,
gonna.
you
maybe
gotta
he was
cave
doing-
your chest in and
Yeah, that-
Damar
Yeah.
Hamlin
Was
yourself
he
for no
doing that
reason.
to avoid a heart attack, maybe? Because, you know, some people have heart issues.
Maybe it was right. It was he didn't. Yeah, it wasn't his heart.
No,
thing.
in Nebraska, well, the only person I've ever met that wanted me to punch him was a guy over at the Salty Dog in Council Bluffs that came up to our table and said, hey, I'll give you $20 if you slap me, if you hit me.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what?
Did you do it?
Well, actually,
Sounds like
my
that guy needs to log
daughter-in-law
off.
was who he was actually focusing on, and she's tiny and adorable and cute. So, I mean, and then he was just like, anybody at the table, if she wouldn't, he'd take anybody. And I'm like, ah. So then I looked at this hat. He was wearing, you know, a baseball hat, turned around backwards, and it said Red Devil. And I went, so you're not a big fan of Frank's, huh? because it said Red Devil, like Red Devil hot sauce.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, and he turns it around and it says 666. He says, no, I love Satan.
Oh my God.
And I went, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, I love him so much. He lifted his shirt up to show us a tattoo of Satan.
So at what point did you punch him? Because tell me you at
I was
some
gonna
point.
say,
No,
at
I
some
just
point.
had fun with him. I said, oh, you like Satan. You like Satan a lot. And he goes, yeah, but just to be safe, I got Angel on this side.
You just left $20 on the table. You didn't buy. You get
That's
it.
what I'm wondering.
I went
That's
all
what
the
I'm
times it
thinking.
was okay to hit a guy
I
for
didn't know how
$20.
crazy he was. He might have had a gun or something. So then he goes, I asked an angel to hit me once, but they said no. And I said, oh, that's probably against policy. They probably said no to that. About that time, the server comes up with our food and says, as nobody's going to hit you in the face for $20, go sit down. So they all knew him at the Salty Dog. So.
He'd been doing this before. Okay.
Apparently he's a regular. So I then thought, this is comedy gold. I got to throw this in my act. And so I always would open my act by saying, do we have any Satan worshipers here? Because I don't want to offend anybody. I met your boss, and yeah.
The boss
Do you find that that's how you get your comedy? Is it just happens to you?
Yeah, it sometimes it makes me feel lazy in the process too. Like,
Yeah.
right, I feel like if I'm not writing, I feel like I'm not creating. But I also feel so stagnant when I sit to write jokes. Like I have to.
I can't just
I have
sit
to like
down.
walk through the grocery aisle and then something just randomly hits me that has been floating around in the ether for months, and then I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's how to do it.
Right.
And then I'll
right.
try it on an unsuspecting person at
Yes,
Walmart or the
yes,
cashier
Walmart,
or something.
Hy-Vee. Perfect.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. Yeah. So I kind of feel like I'm in that weird mix of I've got to live it to experience it, then to be able to talk about it. But everybody says, hey, you got to do it this way. So you're like,
No.
Yeah.
wait. Am I
No.
still doing it right? So then let's talk about your process then. Are you the same way? You say you can't write. How do you?
Well, okay. When I started, like I said, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And
Right.
so Judy Carter has the Comedy Bible. You guys
Yeah,
familiar with
Yep.
Judy Carter?
Yes, very much.
And she has the workbook. And so, and some of her stuff worked, some didn't. I've had some people that did the Venn diagram. I did try a class at the Playhouse also on how to write, and they did the Venn diagram idea where you just come up with words and stuff. But that's almost more improv to me than it is comedy. And I just wait for the muse to talk to me.
Right.
And a lot of times it's late at night. Because like I'm a night owl, and I'll like send my husband off to bed, which wasn't a big deal before he got retired, but now he's retired. I'm like, go to bed. The muse will not talk while you're here.
Right.
And
You're
that's when I do
distracting it.
my your mom's Facebook, but then but I find if you're doing something else like showering or taking a bath or at the grocery store, that's when this stuff comes floating through. And that's where my phone, I use the voice memos,
Right.
and then I also have in notes everything. And then I can do a search in notes. And the big thing is back up your notes to your email. Have it automatically do that. And every time you enter something, it will then send you an email. And you've got that in case you lose your phone. Or, something happens. It also is a way of tracking. How often am I doing notes, comedy? How often... When is the time that the muse is with you? I mean, when do you write stuff?
When do I write stuff?
When does the muse hit you?
There's a lot of times at work because I see people all the time. So I'm always writing at work. Like people see stuff down and be like, hey, I think this is yours because it's like some inappropriate stuff. So I write at work all the time, and then I just press on people at work. That's what I do.
My
And they
biggest
all know
problem
I know.
is I have a lot of jokes I cannot use. They don't seem right coming out of this body. And so like I'll give them to somebody else, and I'll do. Didn't I jokingly give you one because I was like, I'm not dirty enough to do this joke. It was about a mom texting her kids or texting while they were in the car. Gosh, this was years ago. I have to think about that.
Yeah,
I was like, I'll give this to Heather.
It's such a process, though. So to me, it's always an amazing thing to see the different ways because that's what I like about listening to comedy in general, is because you kind of get that insight into how people think. And so with that, how would you describe your comedy? Are you observational? Are you storytelling? Are you a mixture? You don't strike me as a one-liner.
No,
I've only seen you at the
no.
Good Morning America set you did at
Yeah.
the Funny Bone.
Thank you.
For
Yeah.
one of the clashes, and it was great. But talk to me about your style.
It's whatever is happening in my life, and then I have to process it. I'm kind of a combination because when I started doing comedy, it was the concept of three. Mm-hmm. You do it in 1, 2, 3 punch, 1, 2, 3 punch. And that's not so natural anymore to do that. And so now it's a little bit more storytelling. But if you're doing 5 or 10 minutes, you may not have time to get to that. And people that put all their eggs in a basket, especially if you're doing like a contest or something, that's a lot of eggs in the basket. And so I remember the first time I got my tight 5 when I won Last Comic Standing was I took like the punch of my 5 best jokes and add a little bit to it to see if it would make it. And then part of my process was I voice record myself. And then I would go in and I go, okay, I know this joke is 1 minute and 40. And I've now looked at it and measured it in 3 different times when I performed. It's always about 125, 140. And so like when somebody gives me like okay, you've got 1 minute left, I know, tighten it to this point so I can use it. That is my biggest challenge. I have no concept of time. None.
We can tell because we got like 10 minutes left. I didn't feel like we got in the meat of anything, man. No, it ain't that. It's not do your thing.
And that is why I have never won a clash. I have gone over every single time.
But you don't need to win the clash. Like you're still successful doing the things.
I am, but in order to be an opener at this Funny Bone, you have to win the clash. Now I was an opener at the Funny Bone in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, right.
Because I'd already gone through everything I had to go through, but it'd still be fun or be on the radio with like Todd and Tyler and those guys because I listen to them and I'm like, you forgot this movie. I'm yelling at but yeah, so what about you? Have you always been doing this rice bowl?
Have I always what?
I know you're the host, but it's an illusion.
Facts. There is no such thing as
always
control.
What?
Have you always, like when you were a kid, were you always doing joke stuff or did this come later in life?
No, this came later in life. Somebody, I was trying to help a friend at the time get on, and he was supposed to get on, and he didn't. Well, I messaged Daisy, and then she was like, all right, you're on the clash, and I'm like, well, it's not for me, it's for my friend.
Right.
It's like, we don't do no manager type stuff. Either you get on stage or nobody gets on stage. So I was like, all right, I'll get on stage. She don't remember this, but she was hosting and she was killing it. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I gotta go up there after that. And like, I was like one of the first people up there. And yeah, I bombed, of course. I did terrible. And then
he's loved it ever since.
I know.
Trial by fire.
I left it alone. Because it was just a dare. And then I won the clash like in 2018, like in June 2018.
Oh, good for you.
I won it, but I didn't really want to do it still. And then I was like, oh, I might take a shot. And then that's when I fell and I had diabetes in the hospital. And I remember Daisy messaging me. I'm like, oh, I'm in the hospital actually. Right. I can't do that gig. I've been here.
Oh, and because you're type 2?
Type 2, yep. And I left it alone. And then the next year, I was like, hey, can I get that hosting gig back? She was like, you got to compete again. And I haven't won since.
Oh, man. But you're going to be soon on, because we aren't talking dates, because I don't know when this airs. Yeah. But you are getting your chance, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, you're going to be back there with Nick Allen and Gary Curtis in like a week.
Yep, I'll be there 15.
Yeah, Gary, I finally confronted Gary and said, I got a bone to pick with you.
He's a hard dude to get a hold of sometimes.
I lost out on a gig to him. It was between me and him to open for Fortune Femster, and he got it. No, and I was just like so sad.
Feemster.
You're right. It's F-E-I-M.
It rhymes with Teamster. That's why I remember it. It's stuck in my head that way.
She is just so much fun, and I just thought, oh, come on. But we all have those gigs that. I had a contract in my hand that was signed to open for Leanne Morgan for 5 dates.
Oh, geez.
November of 2020.
Wow.
So, COVID. Yeah. So I didn't get to. So.
Well, talk to us about that Good Morning America set that you did. Tell us how that came to fruition. Like I said, I only got to see the set. I thought it was really cool that you guys were doing that. You guys got highlighted on the Your Mom's Comedy show. What was that like?
Comedy has, you said I backed into it. Well, I've had a lot of good luck. And that was
Again, I didn't mean that
amazing.
disrespectfully.
But it was, well, comedy, you can be as funny as you want, but if it's not the right time, the right place, and the right people,
100%.
it's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? And I saw a thing on Facebook that said, let's see, it was maybe in one of my older women's groups, because I'm an older woman. I'm a woman of a certain age. That
Mature,
refined.
You got to pronounce it. You got to pronounce it correctly.
I'm
though. It's
vintage.
mature.
Mature.
I'm vintage. There we go.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
vintage. Anyway. He's like losing stuff here. I'm sorry, I didn't ask if I could touch you, but I can.
You're like the most polite guest. First of all, you yield all your time, like to question everybody else.
I know,
And then
right?
you're like,
Oh, well, I'm curious about you guys.
No,
like,
I
I don't know if
appreciate
we've even ever met. Anyway, so back to Good Morning America. Sorry, I have ADD. Does it show? Okay. And I'm losing my Band-Aid, so I'm bothered by that and distracted. So Good Morning America, they just said, have you ever changed your career in your life? And could you tell us about your story? And it was actually sponsored by AARP. And so I
Perfect.
just told them my story. I sent them, they wanted footage of my comedy, and I sent them a lot of stuff. And then I realized I needed a more recent and a better footage. And so Britton Hackey from Sioux City, who used to be a comic, he's more just a photographer now. Do you guys know him?
The name
Oh
is
my gosh, he's amazing, just amazing. He's now known more for landscapes and for doing covers like bands and stuff.
Okay.
And so we had a little discussion after he took some pictures. I said, no woman wants a shot from down here. I don't want you looking up at this part of my body. But he did shoot the video for that, so they were able to put that on. And they just interviewed me in my backyard. They had a cameraman come and talk to me, and took footage of my husband and the chocolate mousse walking around a lake. And just, it was just the idea that this was just something to do later in life that I always wanted to do. It was fun. And when I was in my 50s, which was not that long ago, I really considered, I've almost quit like a bazillion times. I bet you guys have too, right?
Right.
I'm known for quitting. The
That's like
comedy
your
scene
middle
Yeah,
name.
the comedy scene will tell you
Your
I
name.
quit every year.
Quit.
Every
I'm
year
quitting.
I have a bad show and I'm ready to quit. It's been common. It's pretty common.
So I went and I asked one of my favorite comedians, is 52 too old? Should I just quit? And she said, and I forgot, I was going to wear my comedy shoes, which has her autograph on them. She says, don't you ever give up. And I want to say, ever surrender. But Galaxy Quest callback. And it was Whoopi Goldberg. So I got to meet her and talk with her. And then I got to, and she was so fun and so nice. This was at like a Comic-Con type thing.
Yeah.
She doesn't do public appearances where you can meet her, like even meet and greets. And so through WizardCon in Philadelphia, I was able to meet her. And then later they had like a panel and they did a Q&A and stuff, and people could come up and ask questions. And so she had told me, she goes, hey, that joke's really funny. When you go to the Q&A, go up to the microphone and ask me again, and then we can get, we'll record the whole thing. And I made her laugh, so I made her laugh.
Nice.
But I also made George Carlin laugh, so that was fun.
That's like people's Mount Rushmore right there. So,
No
so-
doubt.
That's a lot of people. Top
No doubt.
5 right there.
Yeah.
He was
Even top 3.
He was at the Omaha Orpheum, and I was in college, and I was there with my friends from college, and we stole the poster out of the front case. We snuck backstage after the show, and I had like this little notebook, and I told him I was a UNO journalist. I wasn't. And and we chatted with him, and he autographed the poster, and this is cool. We did it twice.
Nice. You still have it?
I do. You bet your socks. And I have it occasionally as a profile. I think I do it on the anniversary of when he died and stuff.
I've
so.
seen that. I didn't realize that was the
Yeah.
poster you
It was a tour that he did where he's wearing a trench coat. I can't remember which tour. And then I have a sweatshirt at home that's way too small, said professional comedian, as opposed to the water cooler comedian.
Nice.
I feel like the way you just said you can bet your socks Like you sit there when the muse talks to you, you're like, that's funny, but that's too dirty for me. I'll call Heather now. Is that how this goes?
Kind of.
Like,
Yeah, I want to know. You have to remember this joke because now I want it. I'm like, oh.
Well, and I do some a little bit off color. The main reason I don't do too much blue stuff is because when I interviewed all of these comedians, they all said don't do blue because at that time you couldn't. You get in trouble, and they said, and that's kind of lazy. Nothing against people who do say bad words.
What?
I do at home, okay? I say these words all the time at home. But they just said that it makes you think harder to not use those words.
True. We
do get more jobs and we get paid more money because of it. And everybody should have
That's
at
the
least
thing.
10 minutes of clean if you want to make money.
What's the difference? This is where I find the hardest thing is where you draw the line between, because I cannot cuss. I can go a whole set without cussing. Okay. All right. Okay. Clear.
She's laughing at her own joke.
All right, you got me. But like if it's a corporate clean, I can do corporate clean. But it's hard to differentiate when the materials cross the line to blue. It's when, because I think it's so much more subjective than just cuss words.
Well, and you just use other words.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I'm sorry, I've just monopolized all your time.
No, you.
No, it's all
What
good.
are you doing? It's you're the guest.
You're the guest, but that's
So
my
why
wrap
don't you?
up. That's
I was gonna say, why don't you tell us what you got going on so people
Well, I
can
just want to
follow
make
you
sure
on.
people know Baked After
This is
Dark
so
is
good.
fantastic.
This is the best.
They're Baked After Dark homemade cookies. So look them up on Facebook. You can message them. You can go to their website and you can order their food. I just was at Diana's Tea Shop. That's where I got this. I spend all of my money at the back line. I'm at the back line, third Saturday of the month. We are there. We are Your Mom's Comedy Show, YER, Your Mom's Comedy Show. Put the show in or you're going to get a website with some very graphic sexual positions that they're not easy to do.
Gotcha.
That's the website I wanted. But thank you.
We don't have a website. We just have the We have the Facebook. You got the Facebook.
I got you. Well,
Got
we
it right.
appreciate you coming, Kendra. It's
Thank
been
you so
great.
much.
Nice.
Appreciate Baked After Dark for the food. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a fantastic night.
Yeah.
Thank you.